Imagine this for a second. An absolute immersive silence. Before the chaos really hits, before the massive transformations, there is just quiet. Because, you see, you don't actually notice the end of the world with some massive Hollywood explosion. Not at all. You notice it through this creeping, almost completely unnoticed dread. Honestly, you notice the smell first. Rain falls over the city, and the subway vents start breathing out this warm air that smells exactly like rusted batteries and wet animal fur. Meanwhile, the billboards are still flickering above the intersections, selling you pills, protein water, synthetic dreams. And amidst all this quiet decay, everyone just keeps going to work. You're just walking to work, right? Stepping over dead birds that have been arranged in these perfect, unexplainable spiral patterns right outside the train stations. You're watching the river pulse at night with this soft, deeply toxic blue light. The world is actively ending. And you know what the most terrifying part is? It's not that people are panicking. The terrifying part is that they aren't. They just don't. The city becomes sick long before anyone is willing to admit it's even alive enough to get sick in the first place. 17. Think about that number for a second. 17 straight days of this thick, gray foam rain falling all over the city. Nothing gets clean, the gutters are completely overflowing. It sets this really weird early tone of curious momentum, but it's mixed with a deeply unsettling normalcy. The news cycle? Oh, they call it climate stress, and then they rebrand it as behavioral contagion, then coordinated sabotage, and then they just stop talking about it altogether. They say nothing at all. And you just keep walking to work through the foam. Then the anomalies get hyper-specific. It's 3:17 in the morning, exactly 3:17. Every stray dog across the entire city faces the exact same direction at that precise moment, and they just growl at an empty sky. And then the first small, grotesque things begin appearing in the places people already avoid. Flooded service tunnels, abandoned schools. A maintenance worker finds something nesting in a collapsed transformer vault. It's a creature with a completely translucent throat, feeding off the electrical hum of panic alarms, with human baby teeth growing all the way down its spine. But of course, we don't call them monsters. That's way too real. People hide behind clinical terms. Anomaly, incident, bioform. It is literally just civilization trying to categorize its own doom, pretending that our language still outranks our fear. But the sickness just escalates. An entire neighborhood, 14 city blocks, wakes up one morning with absolutely no memory of the previous week. Cars are just sitting there abandoned. Every single mirror in that zone is covered in handprints, but they're pressed from the inside. The government seals the area off, and the monsters keep feeding. And through this whole bizarre, terrifying shift, you are not important. You live alone in this narrow little apartment above a closed pharmacy. You work logistics for a municipal disaster supply contractor, a company that doesn't even know which disasters it's supposed to be preparing for anymore. Survival just feels like a dull, paranoid routine. You charge your devices, you keep your water stored, you absolutely do not answer emergency broadcasts asking you to remain calm, especially when the message is repeating in your own voice. You are literally just trying to exist in a dying city. Until one night, during a rolling blackout, you're walking home in that heavy industrial rain right under the elevated tracks. Suddenly, the street goes totally silent. I mean, even the rain stops making a sound. Just ahead of you, a crowd is standing completely frozen around a bus shelter, weeping into their phones. And standing right in the middle of them is a child-shaped creature made entirely out of advertisements, plastic bags, pigeon bones, and old grief. It's playing back recordings of people apologizing to their loved ones. It turns to you, it opens its mouth, and you hear your mother's voice. Not her words, though, just the emotional shape of being called home. You want to run, but you can't. Your body simply refuses. That is exactly when the ground answers. It starts as a vibration way too low to even hear. Roots as black as oil erupt right up from beneath the asphalt. And they don't attack. It's more like they correct the situation, like a reflex. They crush the creature and pull it screaming back down into the earth. And from that night on, the pacing of your life shifts into this heavy, downward drag. You don't sleep normally anymore. Every single night, your mind drops down through the concrete, through the subway tunnels, down into the fossil beds, the magma pressure, deep into ancient extinction layers. You literally begin to remember the first forest fire, the asteroid winter. You are storing things no human body should ever hold. So what's actually happening here? Well, you're becoming an immune response. You see, long before we had language or myths about chosen ones, planets under extreme pressure created biological shapes to survive an imbalance.
temporary organisms perfectly designed to stand exactly where the collapse concentrated. And the quiet, creeping horror that starts settling into your bones is the realization that you weren't chosen for your purity, you weren't chosen for your bravery, you were chosen simply because you happened to be standing there at the exact moment Earth tested a response, and your body didn't reject the planetary distress signal.
Things really kick into a new gear on a random Thursday. A massive monster rises up from the flooded industrial sector. But it's not a wild beast. It's an oil refinery that has somehow been given hunger. It has a spine made of smokestacks and lungs full of bubbling toxic sludge. Thousands of tiny mouths open up all across its body, just whispering these cold, hollow corporate excuses over and over. Acceptable levels, economic necessity. It releases this low vibration that literally weaponizes human despair, making crowds turn violent and trample each other before the thing even makes it to the shore. So you're down in the lower transit concourse when the ceiling just cracks open. People are running everywhere, but your body? It completely roots itself to the floor. Your blood suddenly feels incredibly heavy, weighted down with mineral memory. For 7 terrifying seconds in that collapsing subway station, your human lungs just stop breathing air. Instead, you inhale carbon, methane, salt water, diesel smoke. You breathe in the static of 1,000 terrified cell phones. Your hands literally split open with sheer light. Your spine conceptually lengthens, almost as if it's unfolding through some hidden extra dimension. Your skull changes its entire shape, and then you burst upward, shattering through the concrete, the rails, and the rain. You are standing in the middle of the open city, immense and shaking. Your biological pressure made completely visible, wrapped in living spectral tissue of silver and deep, glowing blue. The crowd below looks up at the absolute tragedy of your new form, and in their desperate need for a savior, they give you a name. They call you Spectraman.
This refinery monster, it turns to you, and its thousands of mouths start whispering these wildly contradictory titles. Hero, weapon, threat, asset, God. You hear all of it, but you realize instantly that none of it matters. The monster attacks with a massive flood of chemical slurry. It hits your chest, and you feel the weight of 1,000 poisoned fish dying in the dark. You actually stagger backward, not from the physical blow, but from the sudden understanding that this monster is not evil, it's just evidence. You strike it back, and your immense spectral body literally absorbs the historical strikes of a dying river. Every single blow you land is a physical argument with history. You release this intense, purifying light, right? And the monster just vaporizes. The city cheers for about 3 seconds before the biological growth begins. This wet, green tissue rapidly spreads everywhere, swallowing up all the toxic soil and ruptured pipes. But it also starts swallowing people who were too injured to move out of the way. You instinctively reach down to save them, but your hand just stops. Earth has already calculated the exchange rate. This chilling, incredibly heavy realization completely washes over you. Saving everyone versus keeping the planet alive. Those are not the same mission. Your human mind is screaming, rejecting it completely. But your new body, it understands perfectly. And more of them just keep coming. A towering data monster feeding off misinformation. A massive transit serpent born from sheer commuter exhaustion. A forest giant blooming entirely out of wildfire ash. And with every single transformation, you methodically track the irreversible erosion of your own human identity. It reads like a really tragic medical diagnosis. After the second fight, you can literally hear lies as a physical pressure shifting in a room. After the third, your skin actively resists human touch. After the fourth, your dreams completely stop using human faces. After the fifth, you forget the taste of your favorite food. Gone. You are losing yourself piece by piece. Earth is learning through your hesitation, your compassion, your grief. It's just compiling all of you as raw data. Then, everything just slows down to an absolute crawl. The final event begins without a monster even showing up. Every single screen in the city goes pitch black all at once. And then, they start displaying ancient ocean memory. Coastlines begin to rise all across the world. Massive continents of living reef and bone push violently upward, tearing right through naval bases and offshore oil platforms. The planet is no longer just reacting to the sickness. Earth is finally deciding what to do. You can feel this final transformation coming, because this time the monster is literally everywhere. It forms up in the sky, towering over the skyline. It is human civilization acting as a single organism, feeding heavily on its own massive denial. It's physically made of smoke, of debt, of language, radiation, hunger, landfill methane, endless propaganda loops, microplastics, sheer crushing loneliness. It basically becomes whatever the crowd below fears the absolute most. And the worst part? When it looks down at you, it's wearing your exact face. You transform right there in the dead center of the city. You are being completely overwritten. You are less human now, cleaner, more absolute. The monster signals to Earth that you are contaminated goods. But for the very first time, you actually answer back, not with words, but with a choice. You completely refuse to treat this imbalance as just one big singular toxic substance. What follows is this mythic, almost surgical battle. You start carefully separating human poison from human value. You divide grief from cruelty, need from consumption, memory from propaganda. You are a planetary immune system that is finally learning mercy, methodically tearing this massive monster apart, piece by delicate piece. The sky is pulsing, buildings are collapsing all around you. The monster shrinks and shrinks until it's no larger than a small child, just curled up in the crater of a ruined intersection, made of nothing but ash, static, and old human sorrow. You reach out for it. Deep down, Earth commands a full correction, absolute and unyielding erasure. But your hand trembles. You realize, in this dead, quiet aftermath, that Spectraman was never a superhero title. It was a negotiation. An active negotiation between the host organism and the infection, between the planet and the species. A choice between what absolutely must end and what just might still adapt. You slowly close your hand. Blinding light completely fills the city.
When the blast finally fades, the monster is just gone. But so are the corporate towers, so are the deeply poisoned roots of the old city. You're just standing there, towering above the survivors in the rain. You look down at your hands as they slowly, painfully return to their original shape. They look almost human, but you know they will never be fully human. Not ever again. The people down below, they're all just staring up at you, waiting for some kind of sign that you are still on their side. But you can't give them one. You can feel the absolute, irreversible consequence settling into the silence. Earth didn't create you to protect humanity. Earth created you to survive humanity. And as you stand there in the freezing rain, staring at hands that don't even belong to you anymore, you really have to ask yourself, if humanity actually wants to survive alongside this planet, what sort of monster are they going to have to become next?